Hello and welcome to another video from me, the History Tutor, and in this video we are looking at America 1920 to 1973. It's the AQA topic we're looking at here, so we're going to look at some of the AQA skills. We're going to be looking at the New Deal and the question 5, the in what ways essay. Okay, so in this little lesson, we're going to be recapping some of the key things of the New Deal, particularly all those alphabet agencies and all their impacts and what they did to improve life in America. And we're going to look at the in what ways question, which is a little complicated one that we've got to work out how to do correctly and successfully for the exam. So we're going to firstly recap our knowledge with a little quiz, and then we'll go through how to answer that question successfully. So firstly, over to a short quiz. Okay, so here is the quiz. 10 questions about the New Deal, Hoover, Roosevelt, what they were doing. So, pause me in a moment, see what you can remember in terms of the quiz answers, and have a look through a revision guide and see if you can add a few more ideas. So pause me now and recap your knowledge. Okay, so here's what I've gone for. So firstly, we're talking about Hoover and his belief in how to solve depression. Now, he believed in rugged individualism, which is the idea that everyone should work hard and just get on with it and solve the problem. Now, this stems from this idea of Republican presidents. So the Republican Party in the 1920s believed very much in doing nothing. They were called the do-nothing presidents. They had this laissez-faire idea of not getting involved too much. Presidents would set the sort of tone, set the laws, the people would get on with it, and they would work hard, follow the American dream, and the economy would just keep getting better and better. So very much that was their idea. So they believed that through people's hard work, private enterprise, the economy would just boom again, and it was inevitable, and prosperity was around the corner. However, that idea failed. The problems were too big, and reform was needed. So that meant, question number 2, there were 14 million people, 25% population unemployed by 1933. So Roosevelt suggested the 3 R's with his New Deal. So relief, obviously giving people help and support, relieving the problems. Recovery, setting up ways to recover the economy, get people back into work, get businesses working again. Reform, clearly there were problems with the bank system and other things that needed reforming to ensure this did not happen again. So Roosevelt, in the first 100 days, brought in 15 major laws. Okay, so lots of them are called the alphabet agencies. So to help unemployment, question 5, there was the CCC and the WPA. And obviously the CCC was very much about sort of civilian core people volunteering for work. The Works programme was very much sort of a big scheme set up to get people back into work. Alphabet agencies to help farmers. So the AAA was obviously about ensuring that farms managed the amount of food they produced, they could clear debts and sort of solve the problems for farmers so they didn't have to foreclose on their farms. And the TVA was the Tennessee Valley, obviously, needed all rebuilding, redoing. Obviously, the land was ruined. There were problems with managing the river. So obviously, they had big dams built. They had ways in which they were trying to recover the soil to rebuild that whole area. So the CCC was obviously able to give lots and lots of jobs in the civilian corps. So how many jobs? 2.5 million jobs were given. Okay. Now, some people opposed the New Deal and thought there should be more done. So one person believed that the super rich should pay more taxes to fund more things. His name is Huey Long. And the New Deal sort of as the late 30s developed. They were trying to sort of reduce the amount of support, particularly as we got into the second New Deal. And when 1938 there was a reduction in funding, this led to unemployment shooting back up to 20%. So clearly, the society was not ready to move on without help. And then Black Americans and the CCC, obviously they faced discrimination. So particularly in the South, the CC corps were often segregated. They weren't mixed race, and the Southern states did not use so much money given to them on the Black Americans as they did the white Americans. So suggesting some failures there. Useful to know impacts around native populations, Black Americans, women, so that you can give a more advanced response when you're doing the New Deal questions. Sorry to interrupt your video there. Hello, I'm the History Tutor, and please allow me to tell you a little bit about the service I offer to help you with your GCSE history studies. So do take a look at my website, thehistorytutor.co.uk, and find out more about things like tutoring. I can do one-to-one tutoring or small group tutoring with you and your friends to help you achieve really great results in your history studies. Also, I have many revision guides to help you. They're packed full of videos like this one with revision notes and revision talk-throughs. Also, with revision cards, everything is organized into blocks that you can easily read through and write through and memorize. But most importantly, I have tutoring videos on there, 10 to 15 videos talking through how to answer the questions. You can find some of these videos for free on YouTube. Do take a look, watch through them, subscribe, that'd be great. But also you can find more in my revision guides. So do follow the links in the video information to my Amazon channel and also to my website. So now let's look at this question in more detail. So the wording says, in what ways did the New Deal change the lives of the American people? So what does that mean in terms of the skills we need to develop? Okay, it's really important, as I've said in all my videos, really important to understand the skills you need to do. You might know all the alphabet agencies and all the impacts, but if you don't know how to structure the answer correctly, you're not going to get the marks. So let's talk about how to answer this successfully. So look at those wordings of the question and think about how are you going to answer this question successfully? What do you need to do? What are the skills to show? Okay, pause and have a think about it now. Okay, so here's what I think are the really important things to do. So it's 8 marks, so therefore we need to explain 2 ideas. We need to use our peel paragraphs to make our point, give our evidence, explain, and a link wider. So what does all that mean in more detail? So obviously we need evidence. And now the evidence needs to be about the New Deal because it says, in what ways did the New Deal change people's lives? So our evidence is the New Deal alphabet agencies. Our explanation is the change in people's lives. We need to then link to workers, women, Black Americans, Native Americans, and explain the change, farmers, etc. Wider link. So again, you could be talking about farming, for instance, and you could say white typical farmers, and then say wider link. However, change things for sharecropping Black American farmers, and then talk about that in more depth and get a real in-depth analysis going. So those are the type of skills you need to show. So make sure you know what the topic is for your evidence, then what you're explaining is your impact. Okay, that's the key thing to think about with this question. So let's practice this with our planning now. So let's get some New Deal examples and then think about how it's changing people's lives. So if you've got my revision guide, you can note a few ideas down. If you haven't, then obviously buy it, and then it'll be much more useful for you. Have a go at this answer. So planning time now. Pause me and away you go. So here I've got, firstly, I've gone for farming ones. So the AAA, the RA and the TVA. So obviously, those are all ones helping the countryside and the farmers. So therefore, I'm going to change people's lives. Farmers had lives improved through guaranteed higher prices via the AAA, improvement of their land via the TVA, and around 500,000 farms were resettled because of the Dust Bowl and just the wastage of land or loss of property due to debt, having their lives reorganised. However, many Black Americans lost their sharecropping farm. You can imagine the resettlement authority moves the white farmer, but then unfortunately the black sharecropper is left without a farm. Then the CCC and PWA is obviously helping workers. So the dropping unemployment is the big thing, from 25% to 15% in the years given there. The CC set up 2.5 million jobs. PWA primed the pump for the economy. So what does that phrase mean? So it means that people in industry have got a job and they're getting paid, and then those factory workers can then go out in society and spend money. So then you can spend money on shops, goods, services, going to the saloon. You can spend money on the service economy and get that going. So you're priming the pump of the whole economy. Women, though, were paid less, and there were fewer Black Americans helped by the CCC. So you've got your sort of, however, that life wasn't quite so good for everyone in terms of the changing people's lives. Okay, so this is how we're going to structure it then. So one way the New Deal changed people's lives was it helped farmers, it helped workers, it solved unemployment, something like that. For example, talk about your alphabet agencies. This changed people's lives because talk about one group impacted. Furthermore, talk about another group impacted by the same set of examples you've given. So if you're going to do point evidence explain, you're going for 5 to 6 marks. If you're going point evidence explain link, trying to talk about a wider link, you're going for 7 to 8 marks. Okay, so let's do our opening point now. So pause me now and write your opening point about one way the New Deal is changing people's lives. Okay, so I've kept it very simple. I've just said how it changed life for farmers. So one way the New Deal changed people's lives was it led to big changes for farmers. Now, I'm doing a farmer paragraph. You might be doing a different one. That's fine. But you're still going to follow the same pattern. So, for example, and jot down some of the alphabet agencies that are important. Obviously, we planned them a moment ago. Okay, so pause now and give your example. Okay, so for example, I've said Roosevelt introduced the AAA and the TVA in the first New Deal and the RA in the second New Deal. Okay, nice and simple, nice and factual. Now pause now and explain the impact. How has this helped people? Try and talk about the AAA, try and talk about TVA and RA, maybe a little bit of an impact. We planned lots of knowledge earlier in the video. So try and write this out now as an answer. Okay. This is what I've gone for. So this changed life for farmers, just general farmers, as the AA guaranteed higher food prices to help farmers make money. Added this, the TVA and RA led to farmers having better quality land. TVA added dams to stop flooding in the Tennessee Valley, and the RA reset over 500,000 farming families to better land. So you could say more. You could say that there had been a dust bowl, there had been land wasted and ruined. You could say about farming prices going up is really important because they were so low in the 1920s. You could say a little bit more if you like. Okay, so now I'm going to say about how it negatively impacted some people. It doesn't have to be a positive change. The question just says change the lives of people. It doesn't say positively. So I'm going to say, however, this negatively impacted some people, and then go to another group of people. Okay, so now doing the same for yourself, your answer, thinking about another group of people and how they're positively or negatively changed with your idea. Okay, pause now and give it a go. Right, so here's what I've gone for. I've said, however, in some ways life changed negatively for black American farmers. Many southern sharecroppers lost their land as the AAA modernised farmers and led to white landowners removing sharecropping labourers. Okay, so if they've got all this investment in machinery, then they can just take over their farm. They don't need the sharecrop labourers anymore. They can just be removed from the land. Okay, so second paragraph. So I'm just not going to talk about it bit at a time. You can go for your whole idea this time, because we had the ideas of unemployment and the workers. So see if you can give a second way New Deal helped people change their lives was it solved unemployment, got people back on their feet again. For example, give some of the laws. This changed people's lives because, furthermore, or however, give another change to people's lives. So this question is an 8 marker. So overall, it should take 12 minutes, believe it or not, to do this whole question. So in 5 or 6 minutes, you need to be able to write a paragraph. So maybe put a little timer on and try writing this whole paragraph in 5 minutes. Okay, so pause me now, give it a go, and then come back and see the example answer. Okay, away you go. So here is my example answer. I've said a second way the New Deal changed people's lives was that it aimed to help the poor and unemployed Americans. For example, the CCC and PWA were set up to create jobs. This changed people's lives because the CCC created 2.5 million jobs for unemployed young people. Added this, the PWA created jobs through work schemes like building dams, roads, schools and hospitals. So now the bigger impact is this gave people wages and helped to prime the pump of the economy so that people had money to spend in shops and on services. Furthermore, black Americans did not benefit equally, as in the South the CCC was segregated in some states and only 1% of places were given to black Americans. This led to many leaving the southern states and moving north to find work. Okay, so we've got that idea of the continued migration of black Americans around America. Okay, so I hope you've managed to do that in 5 minutes, did you? Okay, got some good facts in there. Hopefully you've managed to do a good job and got a similar idea to what I've got there. Right, hope you found that useful and you've managed to come up with a really good set of answers. And you can see how to answer that question successfully using your knowledge and the idea of the New Deal laws, and then the impacts afterwards on people's lives. Okay, so I've got lots more videos coming out, so do subscribe to find out more. Otherwise, it's bye bye for now.